Yo, what's up, people? This is your boy Tim, aka T.O. Speaks.
And it's your girl Yami, aka Yams B. Sant. And you are now tuned into Love and Theology.
Question many things in this world, but I never had to question your love. So I know one thing's for sure. I can put trust in a real love, your love.
For every mom who ever missed a meal so they would have enough to let their babies eat. Fathers who grind every day to provide.
Check this out. On this episode, my wife, a couple episodes back, was it? Around the first one, right? You told people to tune in and chime in with their questions, right?
Yeah,
so
and you guys have been doing just that. Also, we want to give a quick shout out to those of you who listen to us on the audio platform. We asked you guys, we told you guys that we wanted to get to a certain level on the audio, and you guys exceeded our expectations. We have at least, 50 subscribers, and that's really dope. So thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Want to do a dance party?
No, I don't.
Okay, no dance.
No, I don't.
So tell them about the topic. About
Oh, okay. So today's episode is going to be based off of a question that we received at loveandtheology@gmail.com, which you can go ahead and tune in or send us your question or request or whatever, about forgiveness.
Forgiveness, right?
Now, the specific question was, how do you love
a liar. How do you forgive and love a liar?
How do you forgive and love a liar? But I think the whole umbrella of forgiveness is a really good topic for us to kind of delve into because it's transparent, it's honest, and we can have some really good dialogue. So,
right. Should we get some context of how this question came about?
Sure.
So this person, apparently, her husband has lied to her several times, right? And through the, I have done the same thing with my wife. That's why she smiled. I lied to my wife once.
And is lying now.
Anyway, so she might be a perfect person. How did you forgive me? But anyway, we get to that.
Well, I guess we'll get into that.
But so and what made and the lie made her believe that her husband may have been cheating on her. However, this person tells me that she doesn't have any proof. She just feels like that now because he lied, and his job requires him to travel a lot.
But a woman's intuition is a different thing, boy. Because it's like there's something. It could be something that we pop up in the. Hold up. This don't feel right. But did she give you permission to go ahead and go into detail?
I don't think it matters because
we're not telling person name. Okay, so I guess
this could be a lot of people's story.
It can be a lot of people's story for real. So in the specific context is, how do you forgive somebody with whom you love, who has lied to you, or you feel has lied to you on multiple occasions? So there's a trust issue,
right?
That way. Your thoughts?
Well, I have a large laundry bag of thoughts in this topic. However,
do tell.
I mean, I believe that. You start off first.
I would love to hear your perspective first.
I believe that, I believe you can still love the person. You don't have to love the act, first of all, right?
Okay.
You know what I mean? You can still love the person. You don't have to love the act. Now, even if, like with this person, what I told him? I was like, can you forgive him, right? And she was like, I think it's crazy. How do you forgive somebody, yada, yada, yada. So I began to explain to her that, the essence, I think the true virtue of forgiveness is not for that person, it's for you. You know what I mean? So you can get past this, right? So if you don't forgive a person, the whole cliche that people always say is like drinking poison, hoping the other person will die, right? But you're the one that's going to die from it, right? By holding this thing in, right?
Well, we just going to have to die.
Right.
Okay, go ahead. I'm just joking. I'm really just joking. Go ahead.
But anyway.
Although I did live by that theology. That was my thing. Well, we both just going to have to die, huh? Okay, anyway, go ahead.
So, I would tell her this. She was like, how do you forgive, yada, yada, yada. I was like, look, it's not that you have to forgive now. It's not that you have to forgive tomorrow. It's not even that you got to forgive a year, a month later. Forgiveness takes as long as you are willing to forgive, right? As long as it takes, right? But at some point, you got to begin to walk towards forgiveness, right? That's what I believe forgiveness is. I think we got caught up in this thing, especially as Christians, right? That, oh man, we got to forgive right now, yada, yada, yada. No, we got to do it right now. I think that has brought in some type of toxicity into the way we see life and the way we deal with life, right? So, we have the right to lament as long as we want to, right? You can lament as long as you need to lament, right?
Okay.
You can tell a person if a person dies, right? Take your time, get over it, right? It's still an emotion. Death, feeling, and being lied to and hurt. It's all emotion, right? But why don't we tell the person who's been lied to or hurt that, hey, you got to learn to get over it? No, you got to walk towards forgiveness. You got to walk towards getting over it. However, take as much time as you need, and that's what I believe. And we can go into a little deeper into that.
Well, let me ask you a question. Where do you think your context came from? Because and the only reason I'm going to explain what I mean, and I'm going to give you the floor, right? Because when we talk about like people in situations, we're going to go off of people who are in circumstances, specifically men who are in circumstances where they encounter a sexual encounter, right? So someone who's maybe like inappropriately touched or whatever.
Right.
Like the scuttlebutt on social media would be that that like most men are pre-apt to kind of forgive someone who inappropriately touched a woman, like rubbed a woman's butt or whatever, because of their own instances. And the way that they project that is saying, well, you got to let that go because, whatever. Mm-hmm. So they forgive a person based off of their own inclination or their own ability to resolve in themselves that they are a good person, but they did a bad thing. Same thing with, let's say, kind of how the difference between white people and black people sometimes. Mm-hmm. Like, they'll ask you to forgive a person for doing a thing because they maybe did the same thing. What is your perspective, using all that in context, what is your perspective on giving that person an advice? Was it based off of your experience of believing that you are a good person that did a bad thing, or is it because holistically you believe that just people are supposed to forgive and all that other stuff?
Well, honestly, man, it took a long time to get to the point for me to believe that people are just supposed to forgive, right? Mm-hmm. It took a lot of growing. Yeah. And it took a lot of people forgiving me. Okay. You understand what I'm saying? Like, people forgave me because I need a lot of forgiveness. I did some stuff to people, right? Yeah. So at that point, I began to think, like, as I began to mature, right? Like, what does forgiveness look like, right? And it looked like how people forgave me when I shouldn't have been forgiven, right? You shouldn't have forgave me for a lot of stuff, right? I mean, you should have, because it's for you. It's not for me, right? Because honestly, God already forgave me. So let's move on past that. So it's for you. But even when I say that, being that you forgave me made me feel better.
How you know I forgave you?
Well, do you have you?
No, but a real honest question. How is it? Do I display that I forgave you? Like, how do you know I forgave you?
Well, I mean, I think I'm gonna be honest with you. I believe your forgiveness comes and goes, man. I believe you have moments of, oh, it's all good, and then you have moments of, I remember what you did. I know what you did last summer. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Real talk. On the topic of forgiveness, it's not an area that I am strong in. Right. It really, and the reason why I think I'm like that is because for me, I give people a lot of grace leading up to the act. Right. So if I perceive that a thing is happening, I'll give you like, hey man, I just want you to know that I know. Just like kind of, right. Whatever. Kind of reel in what you're doing so that I don't have to get to the place where I have to forget. I have to deal with the fact that I'm angry based off of what you've done, and that's for friendships, that's for relationships. The other part of it too is that I have generally believed, and this is a narrative that I'm working through, but I generally believe that oftentimes I don't deserve the act being done towards me. Now, here's the thing too. I think that sometimes we play the hero in a story, and we are also the villains in someone else's story.
That's true. I believe that as well.
So, forgiveness is not an area that I'm strong in, but it's an area that most recently I have been attacked with the perspective that needs to change in me. And it comes from the concept of freedom. My therapist always says, like, don't you want to be free? And I'd be like, yeah. And like, what does freedom look like? Because even when we were thinking about this topic, I was just kind of like, the whole concept of forgiving for yourself and for nobody else. Who cares? Like, you know what I'm saying?
You know what? That's what this young lady told me. Like, who cares?
I want to be, because especially when I get to the place where, one, I like a good argument. We cannot deny that, right? But on the other part of it too, if I don't feel like I'm bringing the energy towards somebody, you know what I'm saying? I'm not creating the atmosphere to where, whatever, I'm gonna go toe to toe.
Right.
What I realized, though, is that it's been giving me indigestion to feel this way.
Right.
Like, to continuously harbor these thoughts. And the other part of it, too, is that I'm a thinker. So I dwell in the thought frames. I overanalyze every little thing. Only because if something even comes to me, it took a while for me to even get to the place where I had to even think about it. A lot of times I don't even see stuff, right? I don't perceive nothing. I don't think about it. But if it comes to me, if it comes to me by either by Holy Spirit or by listening to something someone else said or whatever, what it does is my memory sucks. I don't remember very much.
I'm glad this is being recorded that you said your memory.
My memory is not.
Well, when I tell you forget something, you act like your memory on point.
No. But also, it's like when I used to work in radio. We used to have this thing where we used to have to multitask all the time. So we had like different things going on at the same time. So I might be like running a tag or listening to my supervisor say something or whatever, and then a unit might come on and say something. Now I have to pause these two things that's going on and replay what this person was, this interrupted thought.
Right.
And that's what happens to me oftentimes. I might be not thinking about something might have inadvertently happened that I completely dismissed because I was in my own bubble. And then something triggers that thought. And it makes me go back to it, and now I start replaying it from what I remember, from what my lens saw, and then adding it together. I'm an adder. In summary, I struggle with forgiveness. It's not an area that I work through, but it's also an area that I want to develop. I have honestly self-determined in myself. I don't know if that's the right phrase, but I have decided within myself that it needs to take place because it's slowly killing me.
I think with everything you just said, you just led us into another topic. There's so much meat that we can talk about. And the topic could be like when something happened, you allow your thoughts to control you, right? You know what I mean? Because even that, it can be a devil's playground, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, so with me, right, with forgiveness, somebody offends me, right? I simplify it. You know what I mean? I really simplify it. What I do, I look at the person, I look at why they did it, and I look at what I probably could have caused to do it, right? So I once I work through all that, right?
I don't even do all that. I'd be like, why the hell are you doing this to me?
I think people are just people, right?
Yeah.
Like, I remember one time you said, like, you give people the benefit of the doubt of being a good person when you first meet them, right?
Do I?
That's what you told me.
I don't even think I do that.
But I don't do that.
Oh, yeah, I do.
But I don't do that. I don't say that they're good or bad. I let them be people, and then I let them lead me into who they're gonna be. You see what I'm saying? So I put no label on them when I first meet them, right? I don't think they're good people or bad people. I just think they're a person. And then once they begin to show me who they are, I expect nothing less other than what they're supposed to be. You understand what I'm saying?
No, and it's very true that it's very possible that for those of us who struggle with forgiveness, we've already attached a label to them,
right,
or we've attached expectation to them to be decent people,
right,
or what you would quantify as being decent people,
right?
Yeah.
So when they offend me, I just look at it like, man, like I forget who it is without using names. Somebody lied, right? They forget they didn't reveal something to the people, right?
Okay.
Right? So a lot of people would think that, oh man, this guy told story, which it is a lot. It doesn't negate the fact that he was dishonest by omission, right?
Yeah.
However, I look at it like, man, that was a hard thing to talk about. But
do you give that person grace because you too have experienced similar circumstances that were difficult to talk about, and
Right.
therefore needed grace.
Right, in my humanity.
Okay.
In my humanity, I give them grace.
So that's
to
what gives
right?
you that's what gives you the
Because
leverage.
sometimes I don't like having difficult conversations, so I rather avoid it all the time, right?
Yeah.
And that's a human thing, right? Everybody's not. One thing about you, you're good at taking stuff head on. You care nothing about it, and I'm.
Are you really?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I always tell you that, like, man, you don't care about dealing with a problem, because you will do it. Me, I have to sit there.
Not necessarily. I feel like I'm passive in some sense.
But either way it goes, you still, from what I see, you still do.
Sometimes I do. Yeah, sometimes I deal with it. If I think it matters, I will definitely deal with it head on.
So what happens is, like, I think, like, in that situation, like, man, I got to look at the situation that person was in. That doesn't erase the fact that it happened.
Right.
But it also allows me to give them a little bit of grace. Like, man, I understand why they did it.
Oh man,
you know,
boy,
you understand what I'm saying?
and I know for me that I look at a circumstance. I look at a circumstance based off of what happened, the severity of the thing that happened, and also I put things within the context of you didn't have to do it this way. But to be fair, I do view that from my own lens.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of when it comes to forgiveness, a lot of if you've had to be forgiven for a lot, you know what I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, I think you view forgiveness differently.
Right. I think everybody had their own context on everything. You know what I mean? That we have to do with life, right?
And to be honest with you, let me quickly shout out Pastor Gerald and Tammy Haddon at Breed ATL, because a lot of the formatting of my mind with regards to or the attack I feel like I've been receiving with regards to the concept of forgiveness really came from listening to them kind of debrief about the concept of forgiveness. It's something that like God has been showing me through the Bible text a lot, but I think hearing other people kind of formulate it, I've heard it before,
right?
But being in a place to hear it and like it having the essential timing, I think recently listening to them talk about it, plus the combination of what some things that I've been kind of dealing with personally, plus being kind of shown through the Holy Spirit about it, it's been kind of like a threefold attack of like, yo, you got to get this kind of, SHIT, for like a better word, together, or you're going to allow it to completely ruin potential relationships. Because when you lack forgiveness, I think it doesn't just play on the specific thing that you're lacking forgiveness on. It affects how you deal with people and how you approach new journeys, I think.
Right.
So dealing with that, I think you're right in the sense that your perspective is a perspective to aspire to. It's not where I'm at, it's where I want to go, and even higher, just because it's not good to hold on to this stuff.
It's not. No. So let me ask you this: how do you look at when people say you don't forgive if you ain't forgot?
They talk about this too, because I do hear people talk about like forgiveness is I can forgive but I don't forget, and I think the problem with that now, this is something that I'm like you're seeing in real form, in real time, me dealing with it, right? Or conceptualizing it. I think when the Bible tells us, or Jesus, the question is, how many times do I, in the Bible, how many times do I forgive, my neighbor? And the Bible says 70 times 70. I think Jesus puts a specific number on it, and I haven't really did the detail on it. Right. But I don't think he's putting a specific number on it. I think he's just getting us to conceptualize that every time someone offends us, it's our responsibility to not hold them accountable according to their sins. Right. In the same manner that Jesus himself does not hold us accountable to our own, or he holds it. You receive penance for it, but he doesn't treat you according to your sin. If you lied to him or if you dishonored him, he don't treat you as a dishonorable person or a liar.
Right.
And I think that when we choose not to forget, what we're doing is holding that person accountable to their things.
Let me throw this at you then, right? When he says forgive and he gives a number, right?
Yeah.
In order to count up that number, you have to remember the last offense.
Oh yeah.
You
So it takes a lot. It takes a lot. It
You
takes
get
a
what I'm trying
lot.
to say?
No, yeah.
Like, if it wouldn't be a number if you forgot about it.
But it's
right?
and I think the concept, to your point, is that it's a lot of work. It's a
Right.
lot of unnecessary work to keep beefing with somebody about an offense. Don't get me wrong.
Is it beef that you remember? I don't think it becomes beef just because I remember what you did, right? Like,
With me, it is.
I was wrong, the other day, with somebody, right? I felt like this person, we knew this person got kind of aggressive. You know what I'm talking about, right? And
Oh yeah.
I forgave him. We cool, but I'll never be the same with him because you showed him who you are. I remember what you did. It's like having somebody come into your house, right? They steal from you. You let them back in, they steal from you again. At some point, I'm saying, no, you cannot come back into my house. I'm not mad at you that you stole, but I'm not going to let you come back and steal from me again.
But
right?
I think too to some degree we need to balance that with what Jesus would do, because there are some instances that we will too have to deal with people who have offended us in a way that have stolen or whatever, and we will have to reconcile with them. For some there is reconciliation. I
agree with it.
I don't think for all there is. But I think one of the things that Pastor Tammy said is that if you didn't have a real relationship with them in the beginning, then it shouldn't matter that if you don't continue the relationship. But if you have a relationship with them, then the point is to be open and vulnerable enough to the thought, to accepting them into your life continuously, but also to the thought that they may do something again to harm you.
That's true.
And that's a difficult realization,
right.
And it requires maturity, because the question now becomes: do you continue to allow someone to abuse you? And I don't think that abusing is quantified in this whole reconciliation thing.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But do you what's the limit? And I don't think there is a limit. I think that's the conversation when you're dealing with people as it relates to forgiveness. Mm-hmm. There's a conversation that needs to be had between you and God, right, about what then next happens with your relationship with that person.
And I also believe I agree with everything you're saying, right? I think that was great. But I also believe too that
and it's still something that I'm struggling with.
I also believe even through that conversation with God, I don't believe that God intends for us to continue to be in relationship with a person that continues to abuse. At some point, God gonna give you the discernment in the knowledge to be like, this person is no good for you.
Well, yeah.
Leave them alone.
No, right.
And at this point, it's no longer me. You keep walking into this situation.
No, absolutely. But abuse and offense are two different things, and I think sometimes we correlate the two.
I think we do too. You're right.
So to be abused by someone is one thing. To be offended by an action that someone did is another thing.
Right.
So if someone's abusing you, physically, emotionally, whatever, you know what I'm saying? I would contend that there's the reconciliation probably cannot be at hand.
So let me ask you.
Although there's probably still room for reconciliation.
So when that person does something right, do you take the whole character of that person and be like, man, this might have been a moment, or is this that person?
I ain't gonna lie. I make that person. The area that I struggle in is I create a whole narrative around something that person did. Right. And the problem with that is me. I'm a naturally aggressive person. So someone can look at me and my behaviors and form it, and people have actually formulate an opinion about me that is completely polar opposite. Because yes, I'm aggressive, but I'm also kind. Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm aggressive, but I'm also nice. I would give you the shirt off. Well, not the shirt off my back, but I would find methods so that you can get a shirt. Right. You know what I'm saying? So one and that's the mirror that I've been faced with, because there's there are people who have created a whole narrative about me based off of a singular thing that they maybe witnessed that I did, maybe in my faulties, maybe in a bad place or whatever, and have not given me the space to be redeemed in their eyes.
So that goes back to what I just said. Do you look at that person's character or just that offense? Somebody looking at that one offense and gave you a character, right?
Yeah.
So if you know you being done like that, right? you should also model what you want to be done.
No,
to
that's
you.
but that's exactly what I'm saying.
You know what I'm saying?
It's the mirror that I'm faced with at this moment.
Okay, that makes sense.
If I know that this is happening, then I should give people the grace that I would also want.
Right. I'm gonna tell you, I love what you said, and I agree with what you said. But however, I still on the fence of just because I have to forget in order to forgive. I personally don't believe that. I believe that I can forgive you and still remember the offense while I forgive you, because I can work past that, right? I can work past it.
Right.
I can really work past it and still operate with you, knowing that, man, this person did this, and without holding grudges, right? I think that's vital to the human experience to remember these things, right?
But I think that's vital for you. Somebody like me needs to forget.
Well, if you can't, if you're gonna operate in a
right,
because
what's going to then happen is that every time something triggers a memory, I'm gonna be like, this beep. You know what I'm saying?
You know what's so good about this is, if anybody pull anything at this point from it, forgiveness is different for everybody.
Everybody.
But the key fact is this: to walk towards what?
Walk towards forgiveness.
That's
Absolutely.
That's it. It reminds me of a Bible verse, right?
Okay.
In Genesis, I think what is it? When Joseph get thrown to the pit.
It's around 50, chapter 50.
What, 37?
Oh, no.
Well,
Yeah.
the story begins at 37, I think, chapter 37.
Well, it's earlier than that.
And he
But go
would
ahead.
get revealed at, I believe,
chapter 50.
in chapter 50, when he
Yeah.
get revealed to his brother, right around, I think, 47 through 50, I think, something
Mm-hmm.
like that. What happens is this, right? We always look at that pericope as like being
That what?
pericope, that story as being
Because I can't get my phone. Because you be out here throwing words out. What does pericope mean?
It means the story, the content,
Okay.
the literature.
I'm going to look it up.
Okay.
Go ahead. The pericope? Go ahead.
So what happens is this, man. We always look at it like, oh, this stuff happened. And I believe this is a good story. I believe this happened because of that. I believe you can preach that, right? However, I believe there's more to it. Right? I believe there's a story about forgiveness in this whole story, right? So we always approach that by saying like, all this had to happen because, it had to get him to his destiny, which I believe it did. I believe a lot of events happened so we can get pushed to our destiny, right? But however, there is a story about forgiveness in that, right? So like his brother throws him to the pit, right? They do all this based off a dream, right? After they decide not to kill him, well, I think he becomes to work for the what they call it, Pharaoh, Potiphar, right? So what happens is, after around chapter 40 or 50, somewhere around there, he gets revealed to his brothers, right? And then he begins to weep, right? I asked the question like, what is he weeping for? Is he weeping that I've been holding on for this for so long? Now I see him, and God, like what you might deal with, God, I gotta forgive these people. Why are you making me forgive them? Right? So think about that.
I've been
Think
there.
about that.
Boy, I've been sitting. I've been like, Lord, I don't want to.
Think about
I don't
it.
want to be nice. I don't want to give them grace.
Right.
I don't want to forgive nobody because I did not deserve this.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, he reminded them of what he did to them, right?
Yeah,
In that story, he said, "This is what y'all did to me. Y'all tried to kill me, basically, right?
You meant it for evil.
Me evil, but God meant it for
Meant
my
for my
good."
good.
He reminded them of the act, right? He told them. So that tells me he never forgot. He remembered this. He was holding on to this, right?
Right.
And I believe the biblical writer of that story was so great and so strategic, right? Because he didn't give a.
Say again? He was what?
He was so great and. Look, I'm trying to help these
Yeah,
people.
you're right. No,
You
you're
want to
right.
lead them. You want to lead them off the path.
Go ahead.
You letting the enemy use you right
Oh,
now.
go ahead,
Don't let
go
them
ahead.
use you, okay? Don't let them use you right
Go
now.
ahead,
Right?
go
All
ahead.
right. So what happens is this. So he reminds them, right? And what happens is, see, you let the enemy use you. He took my words.
No, he
I'm
reminds
just saying, God,
he reminds them of the act, and then
he reminds them of the act, right? But then he reminds them of the act, but then he tells them, but he begins to forgive them and give them what they need, right?
Right.
However, I believe the writer was so strategic in this because he never said that Joseph forgave him in 3 months or 4 months. He left that to open. You know why? Because us as Christians, right, we read the book so literally, like they be saying. And Joseph, he forgave his brother 3 months. I believe what the biblical writer is trying to tell you is that it doesn't matter how long you forgive. It doesn't matter how long it takes you to lament. But at some point, you got to walk towards forgiveness, right? And at some point, it's okay to remember, this is what you did. You wronged me, but I'm going to get past it, and I'm still going to help you out.
for the sake of
it, right?
helping you out.
So what we have in this story, we have so much in this story, but we also have a part where he began to reconcile with his brothers through the wrong, right? Mm-hmm. From being wrong. We have so much there. So I think that story also teaches us about forgiveness. Like, it doesn't have to be today. It doesn't have to be tomorrow. It doesn't have to be 4 or 5 years. That happened from what was it, 37 all the way to chapter 50. Man, and we understand that it probably was a long timeline. It could have been 40 or 50 years in between those chapters, right? But I think that it's no timeline. It doesn't have to be quick. And if you're able to forgive quickly. But if it takes you a while, forgive. But work through every last one of those emotions in order so you can forgive and be healthy through your forgiving. Through being forgiven.
That was good. So now, let's do this. And I think this is going to be a segment that we can continue on into our future, right? Of this podcast. So I want you to look into the camera and give someone a 2 to 3 minute word. 2 to 3 minute word about forgiveness so that we can help people.
Look, I can't tell you, it's funny, how to forgive or what forgiveness look like, right? I don't believe that it looks like anything to everybody. It's not same. It's not cookie cutter, right? Mm-hmm. I believe that it's all different. However, I do believe that at some point we got to walk towards forgiveness, right? Forgiveness is not for the person. It's for you. You talked about freedom, right? You wanted to be free, so you had to learn to forgive, right? Because when you're not free, you're holding on to something, and it's causing you to be in bondage, right? Mm-hmm. So what happens is this, right? I believe that with forgiveness, you begin to you don't have to forget the offense. I don't believe. I believe you should if you have to, right? But with forgiveness, right? If you remember the offense, just don't allow the offense to keep you from walking to your destiny, right? In that book of Joseph, right? One thing he remembered it, but he didn't allow the offense. He didn't allow the offense of unforgiveness to paralyze him not walking to his destiny. Because even if you read the story, he got done wrong several times. He got thrown in prison by the wife. People lied on him. But guess what he kept doing? He kept moving. He didn't allow those offenses of unforgiveness to paralyze him, to keep him from walking to his destiny. So this is what forgiveness to me looks like. I see the offense, I know the offense, and I also know that we all are faulty people. We live in a faulty world, right? So I forgive the offense. If I'm not gonna if I can't forgive him, I can't deal with that person, I forgive him, but I move on from that person. Mm-hmm. But however, I always begin to walk in the path of forgiveness. So no matter what it looks like, don't let the unforgiveness make you stagnant, right? Did I say that right?
I guess.
We don't know. But don't allow it to keep you from moving. Just learn to forgive and walk towards forgiveness and keep on moving. Don't make it keep you from going to your destiny. What about you? Break it down, James Brown.
I'm gonna go from a different text, right? Mm-hmm. In the story of Esau and Jacob. Esau and Jacob have a contentious relationship from birth. Esau is supposed to be the first child, and him and his brother are twins, and they encounter each other in different capacities where Jacob takes his birthright. Jacob takes his blessing that his dad had for him, mm-hmm. and there is a reason to remain in constant or consistent contention between him and his brother. What? I would suggest to you, as a person who struggles with forgiveness, that even if you're in a predicament similar to me, where you have righteous indignation, you are permitted the opportunity to remain angry at someone, to choose not to be angry with that person. Here's where I'm going with it. If you read further along in the story, after a number of years, Jacob and his brother have distance between themselves, and Jacob is able to experience a series of circumstances to where he then gets treated similar to how he had treated his brother. And then he makes the decision that it's time for him to go back home, but he's fearful because he knows that he has to encounter his brother with whom he has done wrong. Right. So he does all this preparatory work prior to going. And if you want to read the story, it's in the Bible, it's in the book of Genesis, and I'll write it down right here. But he does all this preparatory work. He sends some people before him to be like, hey, Esau, Jacob's on his way, but he wants you to know that he's begging for your forgiveness. And the first thing, when they eventually come into contact that they have done, that Esau does, is embraces and loves and shows kindness to his brother. Someone who has maliciously done things to him. And I wrestled with it because I said, God, why does it feel like these people who are doing these things deserve so much grace in these circumstances? How did Esau get from contention to grace? And it was just like that the Holy Spirit kind of nudged on my heart, or pricked my heart to believing that what benefit would it have done Esau to maim or to hurt, or to do what was done to him to his brother? Did it take away from his blessings? Because the Bible talks about how in the future Esau didn't get the lineage that led to Jesus, or the blessings that Jacob had, but Esau had his own set of blessings. Did it profit him in any way to maintain or to sustain the anger that he had with his brother? Is he better off not being in a relationship with his brother? And the answer was no. He wasn't better off. He wasn't better off holding on to this aggression. So for those of us who struggle with unforgiveness, ask yourself this question: are you better off holding on to this aggression? Does it benefit you in any way? Is it going to infringe on your ability to be blessed? To not, or is it going to infringe on your ability to be blessed or not? If the answer is, hey, if the answer is that it causes it does you no good to hold on to this anger, it doesn't benefit you in any kind of way, it doesn't provide blessings with you, let it go, bro.
Man, that is so good.
It came out a little choppy, but it was okay.
I think it came out the way God needed to come out, because even in that, you begin to bless me, right? I began to think about Joseph and Jacob, and even Joseph, same lineage, right?
Yeah. So
it's funny how Esau began to chase after Jacob, right? How long did that take? We don't know, right? From my remembrance,
right.
I don't know.
It don't take it was a while.
It was a while, right?
Right.
So man, God began to tell me that. I know we think that Esau was chasing him down to kill him, right? I mean, the Bible pretty much tells us that, right? He wanted
initially, yeah.
But do you believe that as he was chasing and running, God began to convict him throughout all that time?
I told him, like, yo, what you running for, bro?
Right.
Like I got all this other stuff for you.
Right.
You don't have to worry about what happened in the past. Let it go and move on, and go ahead and get go. You exerting a lot of energy into running after what happened to you or the past or whatever, when you could be chasing the goodness that I have for you on this side.
Right. He was mad at cultural norms, right? It was cultural norms that the firstborn got the inheritance, right? There was something that culture began, but God would shake up culture sometimes, be like, I can still bless you, right?
Yeah.
You're chasing after something that man created, but I'm going to create something different. So what I need you to do right now is forgive Jacob, because it's something else in that's going to come out your lineage through this forgiveness, right?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, your word just blessed me, and like God began to speak, like, man, like, and then it can even go if you begin to bridge the two together, right? What if Joseph's issue it's a whole lineage of deceit all the way up to Joseph, man. Golly, this still runs deep in their family, man.
Right. Yeah. So what you can get from this is that there are two different stories about forgiveness that handled forgiveness differently.
Right.
And to piggyback on what Tim said before, forgiveness is not cookie cutter. It doesn't look the same everywhere. So you have to determine within yourself, how forgiveness is going to look for you. And then find resolve in that. If you can live, I don't know about you. I can't continue to live with unforgiveness in my heart. It doesn't work for me.
But I think one thing that we can both agree on is that you got to work towards.
You got to work towards forgiveness.
Right.
So, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Love and Theology. We actually had another episode scheduled for today, but it just didn't work with where we were kind of progressing.
What episode is this? Episode 4?
5.
5. Oh man, give me some.
Boy,
No,
you
not
be
gonna
looking
give
for
it
a looking for a reason to pound. I'm not doing it.
You got a problem with pound? I don't know why.
So if you like this episode, please like, share, subscribe, and tell the whole entire world that you can find us here on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and continue to and if you're on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and comment because that helps to make us more visible. And if you have some thoughts about forgiveness, I mean, we like we say all the time, this is not church, it's not a relationship podcast, this is just talk, some thoughts that we have. We might get it wrong, but we might have to go ahead and retract some things about what we said in the future, especially if we didn't get it right. We weren't reading specifically from the Bible, but or we were theorizing. But our theology in this instance is that you have to walk towards forgiveness.
And before we leave, I just want to do something really quick here, and I want you to read it out loud, all right? Just.
Why do I have to read it?
Pericope.
Okay. I was going to put the definition in the little thing, but okay.
Pericope.
Can't even find it. The Lord don't want it to happen.
It didn't work out right, so we skip past it.
But I'm keeping this footage.
No.
God bless you. God keep you. Bye-bye.
I know I've questioned many things in this world, but I never had to question your love. So I know one thing's for sure. I can put trust in a real love, your love.
For every mom who ever missed a meal so they would have enough to let their babies eat. Fathers who grind every day to provide what